Greene Street Joinery and the American Craftsman Podcast are proud to partner with Montana Brand Tools. Montana Brand Tools are manufactured by Rocky Mountain Twist in Montana, USA. With numerous patents dating back to the invention of the hex shank system by our founders, we strive to produce accessories that add precision, flexibility, and efficiency to your toolkit. In addition to woodworking tools, we produce many high-quality cutting tools that are used by the aerospace, medical, automotive, and industrial markets. Our end product has a fit and finish that is beyond comparison. Montana Brand Tools are guaranteed for life to be free of defects in material and workmanship because we build these tools with pride and determination. For 10% off your order, visit montanabrandtools.com and use the coupon code American Craftsman. Whoa. All right, here we go. We're live.
Okay.
Season 2, Episode 5.
Wow.
The first installment of Colonial Furniture.
Yeah.
We got
It's a big one.
16 pages here. Well, it's for 4 episodes. So we're recording this on, what is it? It's October 14th. So tomorrow, episode 4 will be released, the final episode of the early American period. And today, as you know, we're going to sit and we'll knock out the whole entire colonial period today.
Trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, stuff happens, and we'd rather have a couple in the chamber. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Plus, this is kind of a down week. We're kind of coming off of Maker's Camp.
Yeah, still recovering.
That's what I mean.
Got my my nice IKAG coffee cup. Thanks, Matt.
I had my first cup in that this morning.
I like these cups. They have a nice shape. It like it's a direct injection of coffee.
Yes.
It's instead of that the vertical edge.
Yeah.
It's got a nice lead in.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about the period between 1700 and 1780.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that came to my mind is whoever designates the names for these, periods of furniture, I would have thought that Colonial would have been the first and early American would have been the second.
Right. Yeah, because early American, it's not America yet. It's the colonies.
Right.
Colonial.
It becomes America.
Yeah.
We become America during this time period. But
I guess we should mention, too, these periods are kind of,
we're
not taking these out of like a textbook by some hardcore furniture guy. These are kind of not ambiguous, but they're kind of just.
It's loosey-goosey to a certain extent.
I don't even know who made these designations of these 12 periods, but
there's
definitely periods between and interspersed with these 12 also, but we'll touch on all that.
Right. There are a couple of different styles that don't quite make it into the top 12, like Sheridan and Hepplewhite and stuff like that.
I thought Sheridan is one of them.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah.
It might be the next one.
Oh, I thought Federal might be the next one since we became a nation. So I don't know.
Why don't they call that constitutional? Or Declaration of Independencian.
There you go.
I think I have the 12
Do you have the 12 written down somewhere?
I think so.
Yeah, we've been taking it one step at a time.
Nah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You guys will find out what it is when we put it up.
We do.
Yeah.
So, essentially, we're going to backtrack a little bit and just kind of review because colonial style really, it's by the end of this period, America starts to come away with its own sense of style. But up till this point, everything's really just a rehash of what's going on in Europe.
Right.
And everything is kind of, there's a lot of good furniture being made, but the majority of furniture is just for practical purposes up to this point. And what happens is they take the colonial furniture takes all this practical stuff, the early designs that influenced furniture making. You had the early American, and this was the hit of the last podcast series. My pronunciation of Jacobean.
Yeah, and now I'm totally confused as to what it actually is. I think it's Jacobean.
Jacobean.
Yeah, I stand corrected. I feel like a dick for
Well,
being so confident in Jacobean.
I think there are two separate references for the word. That's what happened.
Yeah, the Jacobean, is that how you say it? I don't even know. It's like in reference to the Jacobites or something. It was like uprising against one of the kings or something.
Yeah, because it's Jacobean refers to James, King James. Like Caroline refers to King Charles. And William and Mary, Queen Anne. You could see the theme here. All these furniture styles are named after monarchs. Until we end up with the Chippendale as the pinnacle of the colonial furniture styles.
Yeah, when it starts to be a furniture maker who the style is actually named
first
after.
Guy, first dude. So it takes 80 years, almost a century. So it's not this like, things aren't cut and dry.
Right.
This is all quite fluid.
Well, yeah, whereas now, styles are changing every 3 to 5 years, maybe even less, depending on where you are.
Yeah. So we're taking all these European styles. The ones that are done in America are generally a little bit more conservative. And because of the lack of like highly skilled craftsmen and the interpretive nature of the work, it's a little bit less ornate, I'm going to say.
Infrastructure probably as well. In Europe, you have these shops that have been there producing furniture for some time, and people are coming here and having to start with nothing.
Exactly.
So, you're working in a pretty rudimentary shop.
Right. It's not like you can go down to Woodcraft and pick up a planer and a joiner. I mean, even just getting some sharp tools, you might have to go down to the blacksmith.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to imagine like things like benches and even like the lathes that they use, like the foot-powered, what do they call them, treadle lathes.
Yeah.
They probably weren't bringing a lot of that here because, space was precious on these ships.
Right.
It's like the more people and like what's the word I'm looking for? Like food, water, the necessities.
Provisions.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that they had to maximize the space for on these boats because they were coming to a place where there's all these unknowns. They're not gonna be like, bring the workbench along.
That's right. So I figured I'd do. I went back to my teaching days and figured we'd do like a quick review.
Cool.
So what were the pieces that were being built? We said that the chest was probably the preeminent piece. It was the most important thing. People probably came over with a chest with all their stuff jammed into it.
Yep.
It was basically a box, especially for the poorer folks. And a lot of these people, they didn't have much, just like...
It's the milk crate of the 1600s.
That's
stolen from behind the convenience store.
That's a good way to put it. And those higher up the ranks had the banker's box, right?
I got plenty of those.
So those were built in the early American style. Chairs and stools, people wanted something to sit on. You had your turn chair, which you could really kind of imagine, had the turn legs.
Yep.
Everything was kind of joined with a hole where the turning would fit into it. There's the cane chair, which instead of a wooden seat had the woven cane. The wainscot chair started having joinery. Just the back legs were joined to the rails and stiles that held the seat. A stool, a settle, which is kind of like a bench, almost like a chest that you can sit on.
Yeah.
Then we had the tables. We went pretty deep into the trestle table last time.
Yep.
You also had like a drop leaf, a gate leg, and some beds. Again, this is the essentials. You got your trundle bed that would slide underneath the big bed, a 4-poster. And those things were pretty clunky, not like we think of a
those
delicate 4-poster,
like with those pencil.
Yeah. And style wise, we'll flip back and talk about the main influences. You had the Jacobean, and this is one of those styles that maybe everybody doesn't know when you hear the word, but if you saw it, like we're looking at a picture of it right now, a chair, it's so easily identifiable.
Yeah.
People would say, oh, I didn't know that was Jacobean. It's like really heavy and thick, a lot of carving. The back and the seat are solid. The back is carved.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a throne.
Right. Think of like a chair that a priest would be sitting in.
Yeah. What we'll do is, so we have I brought my iMac over here, and we have the pictures up there, but what I'll do is, so when we're looking at something over here, I'll put it up over this region.
But magically, you'll insert it.
Yeah, I had to zoom in so many times to get that. That's why the quality is so bad. That's the thing about these big screens. You think it's going to make everything bigger, and
it just makes it fuzzier.
Yeah, because I guess not that great of an image, but I had to zoom in about 1,000 times.
A lot of these were taken from like museum websites and things like that.
Yeah, and they probably took the picture in the 80s or something.
Yeah, that's the thing. It looks like a lot of my pictures. One note that I have here is, these things were built to be viewed from all sides, which I think was sort of a step forward.
Right.
Like instead of stuff being pushed against the wall, now you could go around the back and from the sides, and you'd see the workmanship from all angles.
Yeah, I mean, it's an insane chair.
It is, and this is early work. After the Jacobeans, there's a very short period where Oliver Cromwell takes over in England, and things like kind of go Puritan and real straightforward. But then what they call Restoration or Carolean comes in when Charles II takes over. It's like a history class.
Oh, yeah, hey.
But you could see how like current events are influencing all this stuff. Like furniture design, especially as I'm learning all this stuff as we're going along, there's so much influence from outside the happenings in the world.
We've kind of lost that, I feel like. You know, maybe since the 50s, 60s. Well, even I guess now, like, you think of technology kind of as a driver. Like, you see in the atomic age, things start to have this space age kind of look. But now there's just, I feel like, more repurposing of old designs. And it's kind of like music. Like, what now can someone do that's going to be brand new? Really, not. It's all been done, basically. Like, everything starts out simple and gets more and more complicated. So it's because it's pulling from all of the older things. So we've kind of like run out of new.
I like those two examples. One, music, that's a great parallel. And I would have struggled to think of something, but like the atomic age stuff, like fins on cars and the
rocket-shaped lights and
the Airstream trailer.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff, that's true. That's really cool. So, I mean, how would you describe, I'll tell you that the Carolean design, it was like in a direct reaction to the simplification of stuff that happened during Cromwell's reign in England. And they were looking over to like France, Louis XIV and all that stuff. So you could see it's kind of florid and
so Cromwell was a Puritan, right?
Yeah.
So he might have been like the identifier that people think of Puritans that were like a little more simple and humble, whereas some of the Puritans that we talked about were more open to being a little bit more out there.
Yeah, regular folk.
Yeah. To me, it has like a sort of like a Gothic look.
Yeah. You can see those S curves. The same thing, though. It's still got the flat seat and the straight back. We haven't gotten into, like, comfort yet, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a little ominous looking.
It is.
It's like something that you would see like a modern goth person have. Maybe not Gothic in terms of architecture, but
it's turnings, carvings.
Yeah.
And a small amount of joinery there where the seat is meeting the the back rails and stuff.
but very thin and not so heavy.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that happens between Jacobean and Carolean is they're shifting from to walnut as the main like preference for wood, away from oak.
I get down with that.
Yeah, and I think that might have something to do with the abundance of walnut in France too. Yeah. So then we have William and Mary. This was a style I was not familiar with at all. But it was mentioned enough that I brought it up.
We got a high res pick now.
Yeah, and you can see it's pretty similar. Now a lot of these things are happening and overlapping at the same time. The dates I have for restoration are Carolean, the 1660s to the 1680s, and then William and Mary picks up right after that, 1700, 1735, and it's sort of a simplification almost of the Carolean.
Yeah, this is looking more American to me.
Yeah.
Whereas the Carolean look and the Jacobean, whatever. I'm ready to move past all these Jacobean references next month. This looks more American to me. The caning, the those straight turnings on the like that run all the way in the back as the legs in the back.
Yeah, caning was a big thing. Brought in a guy that was his specialty. You had the turners, you had the joiners, you had the caners. So here are my notes on the William and Mary. It was influenced by recent French furniture traditions, which were in turn influenced by the Baroque Italian furniture designs. And they were looking at all the elements to contribute to sort of like an overall shape or a look, which maybe they didn't do in the past. They're sort of trying to picture this thing as a finished piece. Had high relief carvings, just like the Carolean.
Yeah.
And strong curves. And it was still a pretty sturdy looking piece of furniture. In this instance, we're looking at a chair. As we move forward, we'll start to see how delicate things can begin to look. Here, everything's still fairly heavy.
You could see these S.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a term for them. These sort of S turning, S carvings down here in the feet.
Yeah.
It's starting to look more comfortable to me.
Yeah. They're tilting the back a little bit more.
This Carolean, it looks very rigid and sort of uncomfortable, and this is starting to look a little more comfortable.
Yeah, it's a bit lighter.
Yeah.
Like something you could, spend an hour or two sitting in. Queen Anne's the next style, and I'll just remind everyone, we're talking about these are all the styles that contribute to the early American, the colonial design aesthetic.
That's a gorgeous piece.
Yeah, yeah.
When you say Queen Anne, everybody thinks of these, I guess Queen Anne revival, you would call it. Like we're talking 50s, 60s, 70s is when it's the stuff you see now on Facebook Marketplace that somebody took and they painted with chalk paint. And it's got, these style hardware with the backing plates. But this,
now we're talking furniture.
Right.
Yeah. This thing's got all kinds of veneer work, burls.
Look at this crotch figure here, book matched.
It's the introduction of the cabriole leg. Now we're getting into the territory where people who make furniture nowadays have heard these terms.
Yep. Look at these drop finials.
Like you could see this in a store today, in a home today.
Yeah, and you could see a fake version over at Raymore and Flanagan.
Yeah.
For like some obscene price too.
Yeah, this is a piece of furniture that we're looking at that's probably built in the mid 1700s.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost 300 years old. And look at the style. This is a surviving piece.
Yeah.
This is a real photo.
I mean, that's gorgeous.
Yeah. We'd struggle to make something that nice.
Yeah.
So again, you have the cabriole legs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a real fluidity now to the design here. There's an emphasis on line and form instead of ornament, which, like with that Carolean, the Jacobean,
Mm-hmm.
even the William and Mary, it's ornamentation rather than, this flows.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of has like an animal, like it looks like a spider or something.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
like fangs.
Right, those legs look alive.
Yeah.
That says something about the craftsman that made it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's our first fun fact.
I like fun facts.
The term Queen Anne was first applied to this style about 100 years after it appeared.
Huh.
They didn't call it Queen Anne back then.
Do we know what they called it?
They called it
Furniture.
Right. They called it late Baroque.
What do you call this? It's a table.
Or early Georgian. Again, sticking with the monarch
Right.
name. So it must have been like early on in King George's reign, or so the next furniture that we get into, which is what wraps up colonial American furniture, is Chippendale. And we'll spend some time on Chippendale in the coming episodes because he was so influential.
Yeah. I love the name of his shop.
Yeah, we'll keep that back.
Yeah, stay tuned for that one.
The name of Chippendale's furniture shop will surprise everyone. But I mean, describe this Chippendale chair we're looking at.
It's definitely low slung. The seat, it has a little bit of an angle forward, and they're keeping with like that, maybe 5 degrees angled back on the back. It's carved, but the back it's very light, but fully carved. And it's made up of this intertwined sort of like scrollage and leafage.
Yeah, that's the thing. Chippendale, you can see how the back legs are kind of angled backwards.
Oh, this is a good picture.
Oh, yeah, we got some good detail there.
On this 2012 iMac.
It's an upholstered seat.
Yeah. Yeah, with almost like it looks a little bit Asian influenced, the seat.
That's a good pickup because there are a couple of different kinds of Chippendale. And you could see even in the back splat that's got some Asian influence too. It's kind of got that bamboo look. That was one of the what would you call it, subcategories of Chippendale. He had 3 kind of palettes that he worked in. But the splat is open and carved. Like, think of this chair compared to the Jacobean chair.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this looks like you could lift it up with one hand.
Right.
Jacobean chair. Go back to it. There it is.
We need the moving company.
Yeah, you need a hand truck to move this thing. The back legs are like 3x3 square.
And the back, just the back, that's a table if you lay it down flat.
Yeah, it's about 125 board feet in there. It almost looks like an Aztec throne.
Yeah. So, although Chippendale, he shares a lot of characteristics with the Queen Anne, you could see he's taking it to the next level. And the other big thing that Chippendale did was he created a real preference for mahogany. And we're going to get into mahogany in one of our coming episodes because it's such a big switch.
Yeah.
And, it creates this worldwide ripple.
Phenomenon.
Yeah, yeah. And there's no shortage of fans of Chippendale, and I mean among experts. Like,
Yeah.
how you'll go to websites like the guy who's in charge of auctions for Christie's and all these places, and they'll, talk about Chippendale as the greatest ever. And in one of the notes I wrote down here is some examples of the Massachusetts-made Chippendale are some of the most sophisticated American furniture ever produced. We're talking.
I mean, the carving in the back of this it's really insane.
Yeah, it's 300 years old.
Right. In mahogany.
Yeah.
Which is a easier wood to work than some, but not the easiest in terms of carving.
No.
I mean, the movement in these little ribbons here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that chair is alive.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
A tied, this is a tied bow at the top.
Right.
So it's basically, it's made of like ribbon.
Yeah.
And sort of, I guess like
I think those things all mirror nature in some
like
sense.
Sort of a acanthus kind of like vine. Insane.
Yeah, really, really gorgeous. Just the curves, the proportions.
Mm-hmm. Great use of negative space.
That was another thing that he was really well known for. Well, we mentioned this before, but fun fact number 2, Chippendale furniture is the first to be named after the maker rather than a monarch.
And that's Thomas Chippendale.
Yeah, Thomas Chippendale. So Chippendale, Queen Anne, William and Mary, Caroline, Jacobean. These are all the sub sets that make up colonial furniture.
Mm-hmm.
What influences design and becomes colonial furniture.
A big jump,
Yeah, think about it.
The Jacobean is still, obviously, because it passed through both periods. The early American was mostly influenced by Jacobean, and you see it's still influenced in the early colonial. But once you get into the Carolean and so on, I mean, it's a big, big difference.
Yeah, and you're really only talking a period of like 50 to 100 years in transition. You could see just the workmanship and the eye.
You could see how life is changing in the the early America, because things before were very not. I don't want to say primitive, but like you look at even the Hartford chest, which is heavily carved. It's very, I don't know, like almost blue collar.
Yeah, it's heavy.
This is, the local guy working in the field as a farmer. He's not sitting on this chair.
It screams refinement, doesn't it? Yeah, that's it. I mean, you could have this chair in your house today, and it fit perfectly.
Yeah.
So and that tells us how much influence his designs have had.
Yeah, the funky print, that's like, we'll talk about relations to today in episode 4, but you see that a lot now, these sort of funky floral prints, even in wallpaper and stuff like that. 10 years ago, you probably wouldn't have a chair like this in your house. So.
No.
Not unless you were an antique collector. Or
you and I would not have one.
No, but this could go in a modern home.
Yeah.
And still fit in with this, like transitional design, they call it, where you sort of just mix and matching a bunch of different stuff.
I think I have chairs from IKEA.
Yeah, I got it.
Did you ever see the price of a good chair?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's why I have chairs from IKEA.
Yeah. Even an antique, a good antique chair.
Yeah. All right. So we have these designs. So what's influencing these designs? Now, this is no shocker, but the classics, all the stuff that we still use. This guy named is Italian, Andrea a guy, Andrea Palladio. He wrote the 4 books of architecture, I 4 libri dell'architettura. And it gets translated into English right around the time that the Carolingian and Restoration designs are sort of, the it thing in America. And this guy, he went through all the classics and he detailed everything. He talked about building materials, techniques, the columns, that a lot of you'll see in a lot of the the furniture design, like we still have in our moldings and everything today, the Corinthian and the Ionic, all the capitals, the arches,
the entablatures.
Yeah, that's right. That vaulted ceilings, that all goes way, way back in time. Yeah. And his second book covered urban townhouses and villas, the design of homes and how furniture fits into it. So guys like Frank Lloyd Wright definitely had to have been influenced by that sort of thing.
Yeah.
He even talks about city planning. But the 4th book is really the big one because it's got 26 chapters that talk about the Roman temples, and he actually puts all of like the dimensions and everything in. Wow. So he's talking about.
I gotta get my hands on this book.
Yeah, so it's still available on Amazon for like $20.
4 books of architecture by Andrea Palladio.
Yeah.
I'll see. I'll try and put a link if I can find a good link in the description.
Yeah. He has the golden rectangle in it, and we use that all the time.
Yeah. Much to the chagrin of some clients. They're like, "Can you make it shorter?" I'm like, "This looks like crap." Just going through that yesterday.
I know.
They're like, "It's getting a little close to the ceiling." I'm like, "Okay, well, you're better off just not doing it if you're gonna want to do it like this."
Yeah. How many times do we have to? And I don't want to sound like the typical like we know better, but
we do know better
because we are just bringing forward the thoughts of 1,000, 2,000 years of proven design aesthetic.
If it's good enough for nature, it's good enough for you.
Here's something I'll read. Mathematicians since Euclid, if we've heard of Euclid geometry, have been exploring the golden ratio. The golden rectangle is often used in developing pleasing proportions, where the relationship between the long side and the short side is the golden ratio, which is about 1 to 1.618, and it goes on and on.
Yep.
Also explained as A plus B divided by A equals A divided by B.
So to simplify that, like if you want to practically use the golden ratio, let's say you're building the box and you want it to be 10 inches in this direction, then it's going to be 16.1 inches and 16 and an eighth in the other direction. That gives you a golden rectangle.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so if you're designing, a piece of furniture and you have a set dimension, and then you have another dimension that's open, you can use the golden ratio to sort of get something that's gonna, and then you can massage it a little bit.
Oh yeah, you definitely massage it. I use it a lot. Like if I have an upper cabinet and I'm looking for a place to divide the lower door from the upper door, like it's a 2-door thing with the shorter door up top, that's my first go-to there.
Yeah, then you divide it by 1.61, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can use it. Yeah, you can either multiply or divide.
I wrote down here, we could easily spend a whole show exploring the golden ratio.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we'll do the Patreon about.
Sounds like a thriller. Boy, you really got to be a nerd. Some kind of furniture nerd. Are there furniture nerds?
Yeah, you're looking at 2 of them. If you want to get better, all this stuff is important. We may never build a Chippendale chair, but looking at it, you're learning about, different ideas and techniques and like music.
Yeah.
If you might be a heavy metal musician, but listening to, Beethoven could be beneficial.
That's right. And then Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
So how long we got?
We've been going for 35 minutes.
All right. So we'll skim through some of this stuff, but it's important to know where we came from to know where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how we look at it.
Yeah.
So where is colonial furniture developing? The first city is Boston. Boston's the main city in pre-revolutionary times.
Oh, look, we have pictures of it in
the Temple of Trajan.
Oh, no picture there. But
that's a bad link. I'm gonna have to talk to the copy editor.
Let's see, golden rectangle.
Oh yeah, there's the golden rectangle.
Yeah, we'll show that to.
That's a great way. That's a great way to divide up a couple of base cabinets.
Yeah.
It shows you the relationships there between the A and the B, and then the A plus B. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's amazing how often it appears in nature, like the Fibonacci sequence and the Nautilus, all that stuff. Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, that's the guy standing in the circle.
Yep.
So Boston is the leading colonial city in early 18th century, early 1700s. They're the first to grab onto all these new styles. Right. They're the trendsetters. They're like, like what New York is now, what Milan is to fashion. They're picking these things up first, and it's sort of filtering down from there.
Yeah, New England's had the most time to, get established, and because that's where most people were coming into.
Right. They grab onto the cabriolet. They're making furniture a little bit more comfortable, and they're starting to produce thousands of Queen Anne style chairs, which is just that one step down from the Chippendale.
Right. Yeah. So is that what we're looking at here?
Yeah, that's it. You can see it's like a really simplified version of a Chippendale. The back splat is solid, but they are making some curves in there. They're playing with the negative space.
Let me zoom. Yeah, it's got. Oh, there we go.
You got the front legs that are sort of like a heavy duty cabriole in a way.
Yep. What in the?
So
funky thing.
They're making these things by the thousands up in Boston, and they're a hit. And they're sending them down through the colonies. So
much less elegant than.
Yeah, I mean, if we had a side by side, that would look like a chair that like we would make compared to the Chippendale, right?
Yeah, like this I can't get with.
You can't get excited about this chair, can you?
No, it's got a weird sort of stance. It's kind of bow-legged with the cabriole legs in the front and the just curved legs in the back.
Look at the turnings down there that hold the legs together.
A little clunky.
Right. I mean, it really is just not as good. So Philadelphia, if we got to shop in Philly and we see our town flooded with all these chairs coming out of Boston, we got to do something.
That's shots fired.
So Philly, they try and come up with their own style of chair, and it's their own take on the Queen Anne.
Okay,
look at it. Now look at that.
That's a little nicer.
It is, isn't it?
Still, the proportions are a little strange.
It is. Look at the back legs, the way they kind of just like
plop down like that. They're actually, they seem to be more narrow than the widest point of the back. I'm not into this whole cabriole leg in the front and
the straight leg in the back.
It looks like somebody sitting like this, like.
Yeah, you can see they do a little bit more work on the splat, and the negative space has more of a design in it if you see it.
Yep.
Now we're going to get to the third city where, from my studying, this is where I would consider American furniture really beginning, and that's Newport, Rhode Island. The picture's so small. Newport.
Oh, this is the chest of drawers.
Oh, okay. Let's see if we can get a bigger picture. In Newport, they're taking these, and there's the identifying feature of the Newport design.
That shell carving.
Yep. Look at the legs on the Newport.
Yeah, it's like he's wearing little shoes.
That's right. That's exactly.
Those are like Italian boots.
It's exactly how my notes describe it too. Little slipper feet. But this is what you think of when you think of furniture from that time period.
Yeah.
You think of, let's say, the Chippendale chair and this Newport. I guess you'd call it a table, a chest, a cabinet.
This is more akin to the Queen Anne revival kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So the furniture makers up in Newport, they're starting to stake their claim, and we'll get into who these actual cabinet makers were in the next episode. But it's quite a leap forward.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just looking at this photo and admiring it. And let's see what else we got here. We'll talk about the publication of Chippendale's book. And I have one note here on Chippendale. We've been kind of putting him up on a pedestal, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
But I have a note here that says he didn't invent all of the styles that his furniture contains, but he did combine all of these things.
Right.
And this is a good word. He codified the reigning fashions in England for his creative blend of Gothic, Asian, and French Rococo design. All right, we're going to have to start trying to wrap this episode up.
We got 20 minutes.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
All right, good. So, we can talk a bit about Chippendale's design, because that's really the pinnacle of this period of furniture. Here's another example, and you can see it's quite a bit heavier.
Yeah.
But it still retains some of the same elements.
Yeah, so now we have like a cabriole leg, but with a ball and claw foot. And it it has the same cabriole in the front with a sort of straighter leg in the back, but the execution by Chippendale is much more elegant than some of these other ones that we've seen. He's got relief carved into the sides and...
Yeah, the things that are common in all these designs is that solid piece in the middle that's kind of carved away. The backs are very minimal as far as actual material.
Right.
But they speak very loudly to the design. Upholstered seat.
Yeah, I mean, you saw earlier in the early American more of like a ladder back kind of style chair where you had horizontal negative space. All of these, it's really vertical, where you have the two sides and then the splat in the back with all this negative space on either side.
This one's got the ball and the claw on the front. I wonder if it's got a little one in the back. It's hard to tell in the photo.
Let's see if I can zoom in there a little bit. This is a decently...
Wow.
No, it's
But there's definitely some carving and detail there.
Yeah, it's sort of raked and splayed, carved in.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, these ball and claw are really nice. You know, sometimes the talons or claws can look really heavy, but these.
Yeah, you could see the sinew in the.
Yeah,
in the,
these acanthus leaves here.
I wish I knew like the exact history of this chair, if it had gone through any kind of restoration, because imagine how many people have sit in this chair. How many people have sat in this chair?
Yeah.
You know, the joints are still tight.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many modern chairs, friends of mine have brought over to the shop
be fixed.
to glue back together. And they're held together with screws and corner blocks and glue and dowels and those kind of flat staples.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't stay together for 5 years.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. So let's talk about the three kinds of Chippendale. Like there's the English version was the modern version. When people say Chippendale and they're not like qualifying it,
mm-hmm.
that's what they mean. That's a Chippendale piece.
Right.
But Chippendale also worked in Gothic, and with ecclesiastical motifs, church motifs, and I put in parentheses here, think of a Gothic window.
Right.
He would employ things like that in his scroll work and in his carvings. And the third is the Chinese Chippendale, which that first chair that we were looking at had bamboo motifs, fretwork, and that was a big influence on a lot of furniture makers.
Yeah, like when you think of like a Chippendale railing section, to me that seems more like of the Chinese sort of. You know what I'm talking about? A Chippendale, which is sort of just all these intersecting diagonal sections.
Here's where I'll backtrack a little bit. I wrote down Chippendale shares design aesthetics with Sheridan and Hepplewhite, such as the pierced splats, similar leg angles, and they were all influenced by Louis XIV style furniture. So we'll see if Sheridan and Hepplewhite are big enough categories to make it into our top 12.
Yeah.
But they were definitely categories.
Mm-hmm.
Just had a couple of these that they're so similar.
Yeah, and in Europe they were probably bigger than in the America.
Right, it's like if we're
in the America
modern, Danish modern,
right?
So we have to try and delineate somehow. Chippendale's chairs they become more rectilinear. Outward flaring ears at the top, claw and ball feet. This is what I wrote down, and this is something you picked up. Sharply articulated talons, smooth contours of pad and slipper feet.
Those slipper feet are funny.
Yeah. So, a lot of this stuff is built in Europe. These really fine pieces of Chippendale that we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when it gets to America, it gets toned down a little bit.
We tend to dumb things down a little bit here.
Has that been our way all along?
Let me see. Did I pull up this picture?
That might be an American Chippendale.
Yeah, that's probably why I don't.
Yeah. It looks like it from the description, because his Chippendale designs were simplified and adapted in the second half of the 18th century. And you get two little branches that they called country Chippendale and Irish Chippendale. Irish Chippendale really being made in Ireland.
Right.
Here in America, we sort of have these dual identities that other nations don't have, like I'm an Italian American,
Right.
German American. that doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you say Irish Chippendale, it happened in Ireland.
Right.
But basically, these were more, of the local guys doing their best to imitate a Chippendale.
Yeah.
Because, like all craftspeople, we have to go with the trends.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got that slat wall project.
Yeah.
It's not something that we pulled out of our quiver.
Right.
But the designer comes to us and says,
This is what we want.
"This is what we want." So we do our best to replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
That's been happening forever. And with the native Chippendales, I'll call it, they were using local woods.
Yep.
Chippendale's mahogany, as we'll learn later on, was not really available to the small producer.
Now, is this an example of a country Chippendale?
Where'd we pull that? Is that the...
That's the one right after here, imported mahogany used in fashionable.
Where you got it?
Right here.
Yeah, that's yes, that's... And oh, yeah.
Because I'm looking at the wood.
Yes.
And it,
I remember that's the one where I said, you could see like it's,
it's not mahogany. It looks, it almost, I don't know.
It could be walnut, huh?
Yeah. Chestnut, maybe?
Yeah. I remember remarking when I pulled up that photo that this was one of the rustic Chippendales.
Oh, yeah.
And going, holy hell.
This pediment. With these, like flame finials and this, whatever the hell you want to call this thing up here.
Yeah. A lot. Is that a bird up in there?
I don't know.
A lot of times they had carvers, like people who would just carve, and then there was the cabinet maker. But you could see on the corner, those look like they're added on,
These,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. No, they're in there. It's hard to tell.
All of this, what do you call this?
Dental?
It's not dental.
No.
It's more of like a Greek kind of.
Yeah.
That you would see on like a frieze.
Right.
You got the shell worked in here with the acanthus.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a mishmash.
Yeah. Got the ball and claw feet.
Yeah, all around. But look at the sides. There's a lot of work going on the sides, on the bottom. There's even carving. Yeah, so this is an example
I guess this is made to be separated.
Yeah.
So this is, I guess, this is a high boy, you would call it.
Yeah, chest on chest.
Yeah, so it has handles on the sides so that you could separate these two pieces, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it looks awfully rustic to me. I could see this at the Blackthorn Resort.
Yeah. It puts things in perspective, though. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at
the curl in this.
Yeah. And look at the top. Just making that curve all the way back.
I mean, this right here. It's.
Yeah, you got those bat wing brasses.
Now this is starting to look like mahogany up here.
Yeah.
And these are grain matched across.
Yep. I mean, look at the side of the case. It's one board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at this. That's a 20-inch wide board.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just marveling at it.
You can see some signs of joint implosion there.
Yeah, that's right. Not bad for, a couple 100 years old.
Yeah.
Some guy out in his shop behind the house like us.
Yeah, with the dirt floor. Well, probably not a dirt floor, but.
Yeah, probably would. So in New England, where the influence of immigrant craftsmen was minimal, cabinet makers relied primarily on shaped facades rather than ornamental carving to impart visual interest. That would be our next. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, if you scroll down, I remember. Yeah, see how I like this design where the bottom is bigger than the top.
Yeah.
Look at those book match panels there on the top.
Yeah, triple flame finial with a shell. Big, ram's head pediment. We have grain flowing through the entire. Is this a drop?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Like a secretary.
The hardware up there on top. It's amazing. And these are some of the more rustic designs that the local folks were making.
That's crazy.
That were, interpretive of the design of the day. And
right.
in this case, it was Chippendale. You got the ball and claw feet.
Yeah, turning almost more into a bracket foot with these here. And they're very small and squat. Have another shell at the bottom.
And you can see where everybody's cognizant of the grain of the wood. This is something we've just gotten away from. This is basic furniture making.
Yeah.
The folks learn this from their master, whatever you would call the guy if you were an apprentice. That looks like that top. Everything is one piece of wood joined back together.
Yeah, this is actually all carved.
Yeah.
Have little pullouts here.
You could see the column work we were talking about.
Yep.
With the Palladios.
Yeah, with the plinth and the capital, and then
that's where it all comes in. The moldings, or the carved molding on the top.
Yeah, I mean, you could see back then, like, furniture design was really based on architecture. And in some ways, it kind of is now, but it's not as clear as it was then.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these, this is all
almost looks like laid stonework in a way, right?
Yeah.
You could see that being block. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And like you're saying about architecture, I mean, think about the architecture that we're in and among nowadays. You go to like these out here in the suburbs of New Jersey, you have a lot of what we call McMansions.
Oh,
yeah. Huge houses with no proportion at all.
Yeah.
You go into them, there's no sense of space or any of that. And this piece is just beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'll move on. And you touched on this. Leisure activities become more commonplace in the late colonial period. Greater prosperity, widespread pursuit of refinement. So now people are starting to make different types of furniture. Everything we've looked at up to this point has either been some kind of chest or chair. Now you have tea tables, card tables, specialized furniture that there was no need for in the early days. Yeah. I mean, who's going to worry about a tea table or a card table?
Yeah, I play cards on my phone.
All right. So by 1750, Philadelphia surpasses Boston as the largest colonial city. So now, again, just events are starting to influence and determine what's going on with furniture.
Right.
There's more immigrants. Immigrant artisans trained in the latest European fashions are creating lavish interiors and furnishings for Georgian-style homes of Philadelphia's mercantile elite. So what does that mean? These people that are making their money buying and selling, importing, exporting, they are building these huge homes and trying to emulate, the rich folk, the landed gentry in Europe.
Yep.
Man, I wish there was money like that getting spent around here.
Yeah. Those people had taste back then. Now these people don't have any taste. That's the problem.
New York. All right. New York makes an appearance.
Yeah.
New York also benefits from a big surge in immigration in the years preceding the revolution. So we're still pre-revolutionary. But I see here, as I'm, reading and learning, I'm always Wikipedia. You can't trust it, in and of itself. I check with Wikipedia, Britannica. The museum websites are really good for this stuff.
Yeah, almost all of these photos are from the Met Museum.
Yeah, they had the best quality images, I found. Down in New York, as opposed to like up in Boston, you have more loyalists, people who are more strongly tied to Europe. And that kind of tells you maybe why Newport, Rhode Island, sort of, in the backyard of Massachusetts, is developing their own signature style, whereas in New York, they're kind of just mimicking the European styles. That's exactly what I got ahead of myself there. Because I've read and written this thing so many times. I'm trying to follow along my script. By contrast, the most original American furniture was made in Newport, Rhode Island, as opposed to New York, Philadelphia, where there were native cabinet makers up in Newport. And we're going to touch on Townsend, Goddard.
Pete Townsend?
Yeah, I don't know. There could be a relationship there. You're related to Disbrow, so we don't know.
Disbrow.
Don't start that Jacobin thing. I also note here, and we've said it before, the transition from all of these things, but Queen Anne to Chippendale, it's not immediate. It's not universal. It's happening faster in some places. Think about, like, before the internet, how, like, people on the coasts would dress compared to people in the Midwest.
Right.
They would, like, it would be 1990, but they're still wearing those leggings over their jeans in places like
Acid Wash,
Des Moines. So that's kind of what happens with furniture at this time as well. The news doesn't travel, fashion and style doesn't travel at the same rate, and populations influence, what's accepted.
Yeah.
Outside major cities, change is really gradual, and sometimes it's not even perceivable.
Yeah. People are far more isolated.
Yes.
And insulated.
Yes. So in the outer boroughs, you might find some guy still making a Caroline.
Yeah,
chair.
you're making a Hartford chest? Come on, it's 1730.
Nevertheless, I write.
It's like the people in the Midwest wearing like Ed Hardy t-shirts. What is it, 2006?
Yeah. Nevertheless, by the 1780s, and now we're basically marking the end of Colonial, and I guess they call it Colonial because it's the Revolution. They're using the Revolution to mark that time. Sweeping curves of Queen Anne and the exuberant ornament of the Rococo were giving way to renewed interest in classical precedents.
I have to say, this example you have here of the Made in New York, this, to me, is starting to look very federal.
That's it. That's where we're coming.
You have these big bracket feet in the back. It's very rectilinear.
Yep.
Much more simplified. This, is with the big frieze there. You lose the pediment and the big shells and stuff.
That's exactly it. That's basically the next dominant form. And you could look at the jump. You go from that to federal. I wonder what that says about the mindset. People want to make a clean break. And so now with the federal style, people are trying to find their feet with something new. It's like, we're going to have to ditch all this stuff that came over from Europe.
Yeah.
What do we got left?
Yeah.
So you can go back to the classics. You know?
Which I think I don't really know a lot about federal. But yeah, when I think of federal, I think more of like a Greek kind of influence. And you see the pediments over doors and stuff start to just be just like straight peaks.
Right.
Rather than these big ram's head sort of pediments. Have those frieze details that scream sort of Greek.
Well, I'll be interested to see, because I don't know right now, if federal and Greek revival are related.
Yeah.
Because I think there are some elements of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the curves disappear and the straight lines make a comeback.
Yeah, wow.
All, at the end of the revolutionary period.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to become a topic as we go through this time period, because it's unavoidable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the formation of America as we know it. So we'll, of course, have played a part.
Yeah.
Let me summarize, and then we'll discuss. Boston's the first prominent center of furniture production. The Queen Anne style chair is developed, and thousands get exported to the other colonies. What I didn't know was walnut really wasn't prevalent up in New England. So when they were exporting these chairs, walnut was coming back from like Virginia, Mid-Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how walnut made its way up into New England. Philly responds with their version of the Queen Anne. We noted that. And New York's loyalist immigrant population.
Bastards.
They kind of respond as well.
They'll get theirs.
Yeah. Whereas Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, they're all still working in the vernacular of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But Newport, Rhode Island really becomes America's first original American design.
Good for them.
And I ended up with Chippendale arrives.
Yeah, the real spearhead of the I was going to say the maker movement, where it starts to become about the actual, the guy who's making the furniture. It's not, this is the style of this king who's in power right now. No, this is Chippendale came up with this.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm sure people will relate to it.
Yeah.
This was a pretty interesting segment for me. I learned so much while picking up all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, just even time and place. I had no idea that Chippendale was this old, I'll say. I didn't know he was so closely related to the Jacobean period. I mean, you're talking 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact it had, I didn't even grasp until I started seeing it, more and more. What do you think?
I didn't know that I had such a taste for Queen Anne furniture. Because you see so many bad examples that when you see the good ones, like wow.
Yeah, those chests, especially the simpler ones. I'm not big on the heavy ornamentation. Mm-hmm. I'd like to have one. I mean, and if I had, like, this is something I would probably do in retirement. Mm-hmm. Like, spend the months that I would need to learn all the skills to make a chest like that. Because we made a big chest, and it probably, how long did it take us? 3 weeks to make that?
Yeah, I don't remember. Something like that.
But we learned a few skills along the way. You made bracket feet. Yeah. You carved those panels by hand. Mm-hmm. It was solid cherry, so we glued up all the panels and made a similar attempt in that way.
Yep.
Much simpler top.
Yeah. But definitely, an homage to these sort of Queen Anne.
Yeah.
It was it was kind of an amalgamation of a couple different styles.
Yeah, we had a little different aesthetic coming from our design shop.
Yeah, and there was constraints that we were working with. So.
Right. The client called in. They played their ace, and we had much to our chagrin. There's that word again.
Yeah, to fit different elements in that were sort of requirements of the design and the functionality and the limitations of space and material and all those things. So yeah, it kind of ended up this mishmash of like a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And certain things we would have, like those feet had to be so small because the ceiling is only so big, so tall. Right. Then we got to fit all these elements inside the bottom and inside the top, and so yeah, it ended up being
exactly the bottom case had to be a certain height so that the hot water unit would fit in it.
Yep.
The total height was restrained by the ceiling, so that limited. And then we had things in the top.
Yep.
We had to make the top a certain height just to make it look somewhat close to proportion. Yeah, it was really tough. So that's it for this week.
Yeah.
We had some good vocabulary. Jacobin.
Yeah.
Codify.
I think we might be finding our groove a little bit into the new format.
Yeah.
The dog up there, you hear him? What the hell? Just crying.
The poor guy.
Yeah.
He knows he's got to be quiet. It's podcast day.
Yeah.
You had to get up and stretch.
He's quiet anyway. We got to thank the gold tier patrons. We have Adam Podcast, Colin Lai, Corey Ty, David Murphy, David Shoemaker, Jerry Greenan, Keith Drennan, Manny Seriani. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll say, if in case you didn't notice, I'm wearing my Maker's Camp T-shirt.
That's right. I wore mine yesterday.
Yeah, it's a nice little part of our gift bag.
Yeah, fits nicely.
Yeah.
They're actually the same T-shirts that we have for Greene Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
No wonder it fit right away.
I want to mention Vesting Finishes. They make hard wax oils. If you've ever used Rubio Monocoat, it's the same sort of finish. We got turned on to them. We'll wring the dog's neck. Got turned on to them about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
One of the owners of the company, Zach, came out, demoed the finishes for us. We got to hang out with him for a better part of a day. Super nice guy. The finish is really nice. We did a bunch of samples, even side by side with Rubio. And I don't know, to me, it goes on a little nicer. It wipes off better. It feels dry, faster. It's basically the same exact price point as Rubio, made in Holland versus Belgium. I'm a big fan of it so far. I think we've made the switch basically from Rubio over to Vesting. But if you're interested, you can save 10% with the code American Craftsman. It'll be they sell through their partners' websites like RPM Coating Solutions, something like that. If you Google Vesting USA, you'll find it. They're based out of Pennsylvania, the American branch of the company. So, yeah, if you use American Craftsman, you get 10% off.
And they're not hopping on Rubio. They've been doing this for 60 years.
Yeah, oh, yeah. They've been around for a long time.
They just haven't really been in America.
Right. Yeah, they have, 40 colors, I think, in the U.S. and Europe. They have, like, over 100 colors. They have this really cool LED cured finish, which we're going to be making a little video about. Not for the casual user finish. No. It's an investment to get into the light and stuff. The light is several $1,000s. It's more of like a production sort of thing, but you can put on, it's a hard wax oil. You can put it on, hit it with this light, and it's cured instantly, versus 7-day cure with the regular finish.
Yeah. Nice stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up. I got to go see. The dog is crying upstairs. I got to see what the hell
You
his
might
deal
want
is.
to just go out, the poor guy.
He doesn't do that. Well, we appreciate it. We'll see you here in about 10 minutes for the next episode.
Yeah, one in the books.
Yeah, we'll see you. You'll be listening to that in about 3 weeks from now.
Right.
Yeah.
Ciao.
All right. Bye.